Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Gaffney. I am joining you a little candidly today. I had a thought last night and I really wanted to share it with you. I didn't want to forget because it's something that has kind of popped into my mind, into my consciousness often over the past few years, especially since I've had kids. And I always think about it in kind of a, like introspective way and it helps me to assess and adjust my actions like in the moment and then the thought fades and the actions kind of start to fade as well. And so I wanted to put this in a permanent place. It's honestly so I can listen back and remind myself when I need to hear it, but also because it may serve as a reminder to you if you are feeling the pressure of like time. Okay. Uh, Again, very candidly, this is not a very well scripted episode, but there is a point, and I'm going to get to that point. So stick around for this kind of mini episode and this wonderful point about the concept of 5 years and what you can do in 5 years. Let's get started. Welcome to The Composed Artist, the podcast where we explore the intersection of artistry, entrepreneurship, and self improvement and continue to pursue a more composed life. I'm your host, Stephanie, an artist specializing in live wedding painting, living in the vibrant and soulful city of New Orleans. Over the past decade, my job has taken me all over the world, meeting and creating art in front of thousands of people, and has allowed me to create a colorful life for myself and my family. Now, I help other artists build confidence, develop their techniques, and fall in love with the art of live wedding painting. I invite you to join us for inspiring stories of creative journeys, practical tips for running a successful art business, and honest conversations about the joys and challenges of running a studio and being a parent. This podcast is here to keep you company, keep you entertained, and is full of resources to help you on your journey to create a business that feeds your soul, makes an impact, and is insanely profitable. The Composed Artist is the podcast for the bold, creative, passionate, and genuine artist. Let's get started. As you may know, I have three beautiful daughters. They're currently 5 years old, 4 years old, and like 1.5. It's funny, you have a couple of kids and you're like, I don't know, the youngest one isn't two yet. She's somewhere in the middle of 1 and 2. Anyway, I have three beautiful daughters and they're still very young, even though they're growing so quickly. Oh my gosh. And that's kind of that's the perspective that I want to take on this episode. Okay. So the 4-year-old asked me to lay with her last night. Usually bedtime is always a battle. And my 4-year-old, Charlotte, had not fallen asleep as quickly as the older one did. And so she asked me to go lay with her. And so I did. I went and laid with her. And I was just kind of looking at her. She's so cute when she's almost sleeping, as they all are. And I'm looking at her and she's not a baby anymore at 4 years old, still very young and so sweet and so cute, and still can't say her R's or her L's right every time. And I'm just hanging on to how precious the transition is from like toddler to little kid to big kid. And I'm looking at her and she's grown, like her arms are longer. She's losing the fat in her face, the little baby fat, and she's not a baby anymore. And she was just a baby. She was not long ago. She had a adorable round face and little button nose and little lisp, and she's just a baby, and she's not anymore. And she's not even 5. She's 4 years old. And I I was overwhelmed with this sense of how quickly they change, the kids change, and how quickly they grow up within the span of 5 years, within the span of a year, of course. But when you think about time, when you think about 5 years time in the context of a child growing up in the span of 5 years, so much happens. They change so much. And yet in the day in the day to day, the days are long, but the years are short, as they say. And that's so true. It has flown by. 5 years has flown by. We don't think, we try as parents, we try not to think or focus on, I can't wait until they're 10. No, we want to cherish the time that we have now. We want to cherish the days and the weeks and the milestones that we have now and like right in front of us. We're not thinking about what kind of kid they'll be in 5 years. Like that's going to come faster than we're ready for. And it does happen so fast. And so when you think about the perspective of time passing for a child and how we're watching that happen, it passes very quickly. And we're just kind of along for the ride. You try to make the most out of every day, but you really are just along for the ride. And yet somehow, when you think of your own life and when you think of your own career, especially as an artist, you're thinking about the things that you want to do, the things that you want to create, the opportunities that you haven't been presented with yet, and the jobs that you haven't gotten yet, and you really want. Time feels like it's dragging by. Isn't that funny? When I was earlier in my career, I was so envious of any artist that I saw online or saw in my um, periphery, just watching. They seemed to be like flying past me success wise. They seemed to be selling out their collections so fast. And they were like close to my age, close to my experience level, whatever. I was so envious of the progress that other artists seemed to be making around me. And it felt like I was trudging through mud. It felt like I could not make progress fast enough. That time was not passing in my favor, if that makes sense. I wanted to be so much further developed than I currently was and was so impatient about it. And it's something that I struggled with for years. And then something kind of shifted when I had kids, because you really are kind of watching time just fly by. And then you look back at, the pregnancy, the very first pregnancy just drags on. That certainly stops time. Looking forward to a due date or looking forward to a vacation, time just drags on. But then that fun period, that newborn period, that vacation, that thing you've been looking forward to, it just flies by so fast. And then before you know it, they're 6 months old. And 6 months have passed. And not only 6 months, but the 9 months before that. And so you're looking at a year that has flown by. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I did a lot during that year. I worked, I rested, I did all the things that I'd set out to do. I made some money, I spent some money. We traveled. It's like you look back at the year, no matter where you are in life. Like stop today and look back at the past year and look at what you've done. Look at what you've achieved. Just taking it step by step, day by day. It's really impressive. It's inspiring. And even the times where you took a break or were like super lazy or procrastinated more than you should have, you were still accomplishing something. Time passes and consistent activity produces results. And so that is happening for you, and that happened for me. And then, further into my business, I was juggling a family and I was juggling the weddings. We had a global pandemic happen in the middle, basically in the middle of my career. Okay. So we're 5 years past 2020, and I started my career, my artistic journey, my independent artistic journey. Started my business 5 years before that. So that was right there in the middle of my decade-long career as a live wedding painter and an independent artist. Okay. So I have something kind of to compare the before and the after. And after that, it got very, very busy. I had my first baby in 2019, and then I've had more since. My family's been growing. My business has grown. Oh my gosh, I've got a lot of projects going. I've got an online course. I've got the podcast. I've got a print shop that is kind of like taking off for God knows why, so I'm managing like selling, packaging prints and stuff. I've got, occasionally I'll do commissions and that keeps me busy in the studio. The weddings, I'm traveling all over for weddings. It's kind of crazy, like how much is going on right now. And so in order to keep any sort of semblance of balance and set boundaries and, not let myself get too burnt out, I have to look ahead at the next year in terms of quarters. That's how I like to operate. I like to think in terms of projects and quarters and energy, commitment to, spending a lot of energy on one thing, maybe two, but mainly one priority for the next 3 months. And then reward myself with a break or a change of scenery or a change of, progress, like work on a different project for the next 3 months. So there was a period of my time where I was so wrapped up in where I was and where I wanted to be and how those were not the same. And I was just consumed with envy, honestly. I still worked. I didn't just sit around and not work or give up. I didn't give up. And I was still confident and courageous and did bold things, made bold moves, made risky moves. You tend to be a little bold when you're broke, right? But I was in a place where I wasn't happy with, and I was envious of people who seemed to be doing better, and time was not passing fast enough for me, and I could not fathom what would happen in the next year or what could happen in 5 years. I couldn't imagine it. And now I know, especially with this experience with having children, time passes. It passes really quickly. It passes just as fast for me as it does for everyone else. And so how I choose to spend my time and how I choose to spend my energy and my focus is of the utmost importance. And I like to remind myself that every now and then. I like to look at my kids and be grateful for where I am now, not only with them where they're at now, but where I am in my business. Be grateful for how far I've come and what I've done, what I've achieved, and the pace at which I'm moving, the pace at which I'm growing, the focus, like be proud, own up to what I'm doing. Like if I'm spending a lot of time just wasting time on Instagram, or if I've procrastinated projects and I haven't made progress on a certain project, and that project could be the podcast, recording content, doing proactive things to set up future, episodes. That's something that I it's an ongoing project, and so you'll notice. I don't know if you notice as the listener or the viewer, but sometimes I'm really on it and I'm recording a lot of content and I've got all these ideas and I've got guests lined up for weeks and we're good to go. And then sometimes a month will go by, we'll use up all that content, it'll be published, and then, my production team is like, "Hey, so we have nothing, and it's Thursday, and our episodes go out on Thursdays. What do you want to do?" And so that, require, and then you sit with kind of the regret of like not having used your time wisely. So I'm thinking in this kind of candid brainstorming session of mine, I'm proud of where I am now. I'm proud of what I've done day to day to get here. And I'm motivated to stay focused on the priorities in the coming year, in the coming quarters. Okay. And I encourage you to think about your life in that way. Think about how quickly time is passing, and be patient. Give yourself grace. Understand that you and Beyonce both have the same amount of hours in a day. You and the artists around you, even the artists who have been doing what you want to do, what you're trying to achieve, have been doing it for years longer than you. Time is passing just as quickly for them as it is for you. How are you spending your time? How are you planning for breaks and vacations and downtime? You can plan for a vacation this summer, and you can plan for an hour-long doom scrolling session this evening, and then how you spend your day focused and productive, knowing that you're going to get that break soon. You're going to get that kind of decompression time soon. There's so much power in that. There's so much control in that. Make the future you proud of what you're achieving now. Okay? When this year ends, I want to look back at the year and be proud of the focus that I want to be proud of how I used my time and how focused I was and how compassionate I was on myself when I wasn't able to be focused or when I was distracted. Like, we are human. And if these kids have taught me anything, it is that we can only do our best and we can only control so much. So much of life is outside of our control. The fact that you maybe don't have a full booking calendar if you're a live wedding painter, the fact that you don't have a queue lined up out the door for commissions may be outside of your control. Some elements of that may be outside of your control, but you can control the hustle now to fill those days, to fill that list. Some of it is in your control. What can you do to control that now? And then what can you kind of consider to be outside of your control and give yourself grace about? Are you living in a place of envy and kind of resentfulness toward artists around you? How can you grow? How can you learn from them? What are they doing well that maybe you can learn from or implement in your business? What's the desire out there? How can you serve people to immediately gain momentum, to make some money and get your name out there? Be proactive and be grateful and be kind on yourself. Like, time is going to pass faster than you can imagine. And where you are now is not where you're going to be. Like, very soon, it's going to pass. You guys, time passes. Look at children who were babies just the other day. And today they are running around with thoughts and opinions and and a full mouth of teeth, and they're just grown up. Like, it just passes so fast. And before you know it, my 4 and 5-year-old are going to be 9 and 10 in 5 years. That's going to pass so quickly. How am I going to spend the next 5 years? What goals am I going to set for myself? What projects am I going to set out to tackle? And how am I going to break that time up to where I'm not completely overwhelming myself and I'm making time for all of those things, and I'm still making time for family and rest and all the other important self-care things? Look ahead and give yourself some sort of guiding light, and that'll help you make decisions today so that you don't live with regret over the past, looking back at the past year, right? So those are my thoughts, and those were inspired by my children who are growing so fast. And I hope that you, I don't know, think about your life and think about maybe if you're feeling that way or have felt that way in the past. If you have kids, I'm sure you can relate. If you don't have children or don't have kids yet, that's just kind of one of the many kind of emotional reminders and thoughts and realities that I live with as a mother and a parent. And they teach me so much. They teach me just by existing, just by laying there in the bed, falling asleep at 4 years old. She taught me a lesson about living life intentionally. I'm going to cry. Ooh, I can't wait to give her a hug and squeeze her and thank her. Yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to this little quick episode. And I can't wait to share the next little bit, spark of information, I can't wait to share the next spark of inspiration that come through my children. But until next time, happy painting. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on this journey of artistic exploration, entrepreneurial growth, and personal development. Remember, you have the power to create a life that is both fulfilled and balanced. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe to The Composed Artist on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to leave us a review. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more creatives like you. Until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and keep pursuing that composed life. You got this.